Hello and welcome to your next tutorial in Visual Basic, and today we're going to be discussing buttons, text boxes, exception handling, and math and assignment operators. So let's get started because we have quite a bit to do. So what if we want to create a button that executes a specific piece of code that we put in there? Well, let's see how we go about doing that. So go to your toolbox and click button, and you know what, I should probably stretch this a little bit and then just put it wherever. Then you can drag and move it wherever you'd like. So I'll move it to about right here. And what should we call it? Let's call it exit. And I can put a little ampersand in front of there, type in EXIT, click enter, and there it is. Now a very interesting thing that I haven't shown you yet, and I would like to show you with buttons, is if you click on your form and look at the properties, you can find two little buttons here, or two properties here. One's the cancel button. You can set that to any button that you have on there. We only have one, so I'll set it to button 1. And I believe the other one is called accept. Yeah, accept button. Now these two features, what happens is whatever button you set to that, if you press escape while the application is running, it'll execute whatever code you set to the cancel button, and whatever button you put for the accept button will execute if you press enter. So we have no code though, so we double click our button, and as you can see, we now have a subroutine for if you click button number 1. So I'm just going to show you something very simple because you should learn this, and that's me. Anytime you type in me, you're referring to the form itself, to the application. And then we'll want to close. So I'll press tab and then put some parentheses right after that. And basically it just closes the program, as simple as that. So let's run this. So if I click exit, it closes. If I press alternate and then press the E, since that's what's underlined, it also exits. And then if I run it again, if I press the escape, it exits, it closes. So yeah, that's really neat. But enough of that. Let's actually get into text boxes now. Now what if you would like to create variables and the information that goes in these variables is whatever the user types in. So I want to do some simple math. So let's create 2 text boxes and then eventually we'll do some math to them. So I'm just going to create 2 text boxes like this. Grab another one. And you can also copy and paste if you want to. You can just right click these and you can copy and paste them if you wish. That's a faster way to do it. And I'll call this I'll call it text input 1. Hopefully I spell all of these right. Then for this I'll change it to text input 2. And I believe that should work. And let's actually rename this button to calculate because we'll eventually go about doing that. So let's say we want to do some math, right? So this is kind of a few things we'll be learning at once. But anyways, just go to your I didn't change this, did I? Oh, whoops. Oh, I'll put BTN in front of there. That's shorthand for button. And I'll change this to calculate. There you go, now it says calculate. So let's go back to the calculate button and let's get rid of this. We definitely don't want this to close. And outside of all of these, let's actually declare our variables first. So we're going to have 2 inputs and then a final value that will contain whatever math you do with it. So first let's call dim input 1 as single, and then our second one will be dim input underscore 2 as single, and dim, let's call it total as single, and there's our 3 right there. So now how do we get the information from the user? Well, what you can do is when they click the button in this subroutine, let me go into exception handling first, just because that's important. And that's basically if they type in invalid information that might cause the application to crash. For an example, what if they type in a string? What if they put in characters? It won't be able to read it as a single. You'll be setting input as a string, which is impossible, and the application will crash. So we'll want to solve that. So type in try, and then press enter, and then these other 2 things pop up. So the end try is basically just at the bottom, and you'll want to put all your code within the try. Now as for the, oh, I don't need this much space here. For this catch, basically if it catches an error, what you do is you type in message box, then after that type in show, and then a pair of parentheses. And then inside of these parentheses, basically you can type in x.message, which basically it'll show a default error. For the title, which is what will pop up in the upper left corner of the window that'll pop up, you type in the string, just for a default error. You can put whatever you would like. And then after that, whatever set of buttons you would like to have pop up. So you see we have all these different message box buttons. Let's just go for an OK. And then that'll pop up if there's any errors that occur. So let's go back to setting the information. So we have input 1, I believe. Oh, whoops, I misspelled it. There it is. Input 1 is equal to, then in order to convert whatever you type in inside of the text box, you type in C followed by the shorthand. So you see all these shorthands up here. C dec is decimal. This is a double date. Well, we're single, so we'll go S, N, G, and then a pair of parentheses. Then inside the parentheses goes the name of the text box you gave it. So I gave it text input 1 dot text, and then that's going to fetch the information, whatever you put in there. So we're going to do this again for input 2. I keep doing that. Is equal to C single, and then text. And this is why I put the TXTs or the whatever I put there for the shorthand, because then it's going to list all of my little things here only, and it's easier to use in IntelliSense. That is not what I wanted. My bad, everybody. And, oh goodness. Then, we're going to want to mess with the total, right? So now we're going to introduce the arithmetic operators, which is the math. So, what do we want to do first? Let's go input 1 plus input 2, shall we? Then, well, we've got a bit of a problem. I actually forgot to create a label to put the answer on. So let's create a label, and, I don't know, turn auto size off. False. Let's get this centered, and let's keep the text blank. And let's change the border style to, I wish I could change the default to these. Fixed 3D, so it'd be something like that. So let's go back to the code and type in label. Whoops, excuse me. Oh, sorry, I didn't change I didn't call it label output. That's the one thing I really worry about, is making sure I spelled everything right. So label output dot text will be equal to total dot toString, and this should work. So let's click save and then run this program. So if I type in 2 here and I type in 3 here, it should add them, and then you get 5. And that's really cool, isn't it? For all the different operators, you have minus. So I'll click to save, and then I'll run this. Just to show it off, let's see if it can support negative numbers. So 2 minus 5, what do you think will happen? Well, it gave us a negative number, so that's cool. Also bear in mind, if you're going to be working with decimals, make sure you're working with like single, double, or decimal, not the byte or the integer, and none of the integers, because they don't support decimals, especially when you go into division. Multiplication, you will use the asterisk. So I'll click save and do this again. And I'll go, 5 times 6, you get 30. And now there's 2 different divides. You have the regular divide, which is the /. Basically, it'll give you a decimal as an answer if it needs to. So if you go 6 divided by 4, you get 1.5. But then you have this other one, which is the \, and that's an integer division. Basically, it'll just show you the integer. So if I do the 6 and 4 again and click calculate, it only gives you 1. So bear in mind, it said 1.5 before, so that should tell you it does not round. in case you're wondering, it does not round. So yeah, and there's also the modulus. Modulus is usually a percent. Is usually defined by a percent sign in most languages, but here it's just mod. You just type in mod, and what that does is it returns the remainder. So if I press F5 for an example and I type in, I don't know, 6500 or 6545, and then I go mod 1000, it should return the 545 because 1000 goes into this 6 times, but it can't go into that 545. So the 545 is the remainder. Let's do another example. I'll go 7 and 2, and we get 1. And the reason is because we go 2, 4, 6, but then we have one more left over, right? So that's the remainder in there. So that, so yeah. And I think, oh yeah, there's also exponents. So you can also do exponents. So I'll click save, I'll build, and I'll do the infamous, I don't know, it's not infamous, the 2 to the 5th power. I mean, why not? You get the 32. So you can do exponents as well. Most programming languages don't have this supported. You would have to access the math object in most languages in order to do exponents, which is separate than this, but you don't have to worry about that for Visual Basic, so don't worry. And yeah, and the last thing I'd like to show you are assignment operators. The first assignment operator, as you can see, is the equals to. Actually, allow me to write out a lot of these. So for, arithmetic, we had adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, integer dividing, modulus, and exponents. And then for assignment operators, we have the equal sign. So basically it's setting this side equal to this side. That's what the equals does. You don't need to know this now. Or actually, no, that's not an assignment operator. No, this is an assignment operator. What I was about to do was not. Ignore that. So you have the equals sign. And then you have a bunch of others. The plus equals, minus equals, times equals, divide equals, the integer divide equals, and I think that's it. Oh yeah, and concatenation, which you don't need to know now. I'm going to do that in the next video for strings. These guys, what they do is they save the value of whatever you put in there, and then adds or does whatever the operator is to it. So basically, what I can do here is, down here, what if I wanted to add 5 to the answer? What I could do is type in total plus or equals 5, and what happens is whatever it does here, it'll add 5 to it. So if I do this, 2 to the 5th power is 32, right? Well, now it's 37. Because what it did is it saved that 32 by doing this plus equals. Another way to write this out would be equal to total plus 5. But basically that was just a shorthand. So you have the plus equals to, and you have the minus equals, times equals, and all these. I'm not going to show you examples because that takes too long, and you understand that. I mean, that's pretty obvious. So you have all of these. So these are the arithmetic operators of Visual Basic, and these are the assignment operators, including concatenation, the catenation one here, which we'll talk about in the next one. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope these were good examples for you, and I'll see you next time.